Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Revealing the True You Summit. Today, we've got a treat for you, and she's actually going to talk to you a little bit more about what type of treats to eat in order to fix your mood. You have to feel the part, and what you eat has a lot to do with it. Jenai Tidwell,
Hello, ma'am.
how are you?
I am well and excited to be here. Thank you so much for just having me and inviting me into this space.
Absolutely. So, Revealing the True You is talking a lot about how to create and maintain this new identity. And I know a lot of women are, wanting to be on a more open level, right? They want to be able to be more receptive. They want more clarity. They want more guidance and direction. But, as you know, food affects your mood. So, let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So, when it comes to kind of revamping, reframing, even identifying who you are, the ability for you to tap into that inner self and really think through that and have a clear path forward, a lot of times depends on how you're feeling in the moment. And we know as women, one day to the next, that mood can shift just due to biological things, life stressors, and what you eat. And a lot of times we don't think about what I eat in affecting my mood. Now, me as a woman, that monthly time, give me some chocolate, give me some sweets. So we know that there are things that can make us feel a little bit better. But I don't know if we really begin to tap into the power of how we can boost our mood, decrease depression, get more clarity and focus with the power of our diet and what we eat day to day.
So, what is the difference between truly feeling good and just wanting to eat the foods to feel good? What is the difference?
Fair, really good question. Because there are some things that we'll eat that will do kind of a nostalgic feel for us. So those things that are comforting for us, those things that may be kind of the quick spikes when it comes to sugars or salts or fats, some of those have been connected to those nostalgic, comforting past experiences and thoughts in our minds. So some of those foods, high sugar, high fat, maybe high salt, can feel good, but they don't really do our bodies well. They're not really good for us, and they're not increasing what we want to have happen as far as overall health and wellness. So, again, high fats, high sugars, maybe sometimes high salts, those things can feel comforting, but not be good for us.
What you do, let's talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So part of what I do is to help and educate individuals on the difference between these foods and actually give them some guidance and some understanding into that short-term, immediate fix, that maybe microwavable, quick fix, and then what are those things that we want to eat long term that are going to create health and wellness. So, for example, right, let's say we're struggling with symptoms of ADHD or inability to focus, brain fog, which we can always often have during, again, that cyclical time for a lot of women. We'll usually go to those quick fixes, caffeines, sugars to get a boost. And that's really what we want to avoid. I really want to tell everybody cut back on those during that time. Foods that have a lot of refined sugars, foods that are highly processed, those are going to not do you well in long term because they're actually making the brain spike and fall and spike and fall. And that is really not going to give you that long sustained ability to focus. What you do want to be eating are lots of proteins. So maybe that's nuts. And maybe that's like hard boiled eggs, those quick proteins you can get your hands on, fatty fish that are good for you. So don't go crazy with that. But really good salmon, really high quality fish. That's what you want to grab. And then anything that's going to give you that long sustained energy. So there's different types of proteins as well. So that could be grass fed beef, free range chicken. We want to have a variety of those healthy proteins as well.
Okay. So then let me make sure that I got this straight. So no caffeines, no sugars. That's really tough to do in America. Like, how do we sustain? Because I mean, we already know we're not supposed to eat these sugary foods. Should we have substitute? Is there something that needs to change in our day-to-day life? Give me some more realistic reasoning for me. Because personally, I love the sweet.
And let me not lie, because I'm human and my mother is a baker. So I grew up on a good cookie or a good pie. Like, let's just be honest and real, right? So those things we absolutely are going to still kind of have in our celebratory times, in those times where we get together with friends or family. So I don't want you to think all or nothing, right? Let's be honest. That's not what it's going to be. No, there's going to be those moments in between. So everything in moderation. Just be mindful that if this is a moment or a season that you are really trying to have a lot of clarity, a lot of focus, maybe this is crunch time and you really want to get a project done or a deadline met. Let's be smart and intentional about what you're consuming during that time so that you can set yourself up for success, and just slowly start to cut back. Go from 3 to 2 for a week and then 2 to 1 the next week. Adjust and get used to your new normal. Then you should have, again, more clarity for the long term than in that short term fix.
When you're eating all these sugary foods, we've always known those effects to be spikes in energy. What do they really do to the brain?
It's a really great question. When we begin to depend upon that for our normal day-to-day fuel to get going, what that does to the brain, it really is like, hey, we have to have this. We don't have the go-go juice on our own. We're not creating our own cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And we want some levels of cortisol. When we get too much levels of cortisol, when we're high anxiety, high stress, that can be distressing or even dangerous to us physically and mental health wise. So there is a happy medium with cortisol. We want some, and then we want it to kind of level back out in the evenings. But when we're consuming it all day, to get the job done, to stay awake, to stay focused, we're throwing off the brain chemistry and we're throwing off our body's regulatory systems. And you're going to see it in how you sleep. You're going to see it in your digestive processes. A lot of people will use caffeine as a diuretic because it moves things on through. And so you're almost getting your body dependent upon this or these substances that can really start to mess up how your body functions. And your brain will say, oh, well, we don't need to do that anymore because they're already consuming it. So we can shut it down or we can decrease our production. And then again, like we know, caffeine, sugar, those are just as addictive as some of those illegal drugs and substances. So, and even sometimes more.
What does that look like for a typical day of a person wanting to be more conscious?
Get up, move around. Please drink water first. Get your body hydrated. You've been asleep for, let's say, hopefully anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. So you've gone all that time without any liquid coming in. So though you may not feel it, your body is a bit thirsty and you're a little dehydrated when you're waking up. So get you a good 8-ounce glass of water. Do that first, drink that first. Then go for your cup of coffee in the morning. That's okay. If you are I used to have me 2 cups a day. I used to be that way many years ago, but 2 cups a day. I have one in the morning and then I have one after lunch because after lunch I get sleepy. And I know people who eat and then get sleepy at lunch and they're needing that second cup of coffee around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get them to 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening to get home. If you're finding that that's happening, I'm going to say, look at what you're eating for lunch. And I don't want to jump ahead, but we'll talk about that in a second, because that could be causing you some fatigue and some sleepiness. But I would say lunchtime as the absolute latest is that you want to consume any of that coffee or high caffeine and then let your body digest all of that and get rid of that so that cortisol levels and all of that stimulant in the caffeine is hopefully worked through by the time you're laying down to go to bed to sleep at night. So I wanted to make sure I shared with the audience, again, things to eat when, right? Things to eat when you're feeling a certain way so that you can utilize your diet as a resource to affect your mood and then, essentially launch you into revealing and finding that true you that you have been holding back or just haven't been connected to. So as we talked about before, if you're struggling with focus, you want to increase some of those healthy fats. Healthy fats truly are the foundation of our brain matter. Our brain is 70% fat. We don't think about it that way, but it truly is. It's encompassing all of those neurons that are inside of there. And so when we eat healthy fats, we're supporting the foundation of our brain in its matter. We want to avoid artificial dyes, again, processed foods, especially red dye number 40 and orange dye. People don't realize that, but those can be neurotoxic to individuals who are actually diagnosed with ADHD. It really can wreak havoc on them in the symptoms that they're experiencing.
So I want to understand, just for those of us that did not go to school, understand what neurotoxins and the clinical terms are, you know, what does it look like for you to have a thought that is full of these neurotoxins versus having a thought that is clear? Is it that your mental processes are foggy? Is it that you may make the wrong decision? Or is it that you may be delayed in even arriving to a full thought? What does that look like?
Great question. And honestly, it could be a combination of all three. It really is going to depend on that particular person and how much of that they have consumed. Has it been a long time consumption? Are we talking weeks? Are we talking decades? And how that then affects the brain. So it may start out like, oh, I just forgot why I came in this room. Oh, well, oh, okay, now I remember, right? And it can start out that way, but then we can get into, brain fog or just lack of clarity, or the if-then thoughts that we have. If I do this, then that will happen. Sometimes that will also get delayed and or just be more difficult to complete the sentence or complete the thought altogether. So I can give a lot of examples, but I'm going to say it's not going to look the same always for each individual, right?
Toxin intoxicates your neural pathways, which is your thought process. So if you have the constant consumption of blocking your pathways to a thought, then you have inaction, essentially.
You're not going to, like you said, follow through with the plan or initiate with the action. It could be a number of different things. It just keeps you stagnant and or stuck. If you're feeling anxious or nervous in regards to a thing or situation or circumstance, what to do? Eat more vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is really good to consume. You don't have to drink it in some crazy, drink. You can just kind of utilize it in cooking or to flavor foods. Bone broths. And we don't think a lot about bone broths, but honestly, that's like chicken noodle soup, right? That is just utilizing the bones to make a broth. If you are a big fan of pho, it's really big down here in our the city of Houston. That's another example of a really good bone broth. Celery is also really good to eat when you're feeling anxious and nervous, and oatmeal. And why those foods? They contain some micronutrients and vitamins and minerals, right? That's what micronutrients are, just vitamins and minerals. They naturally contain things like magnesium and vitamin B and vitamin K that bring the anxiety and nervousness down and diminish that for you. When you are feeling anxious, feeling nervous, I want you to, again, decrease sugar, decrease caffeine. Again, those are stimulants, but also decrease alcohol. And people are like, Jenai, when I'm nervous, if I take one to the head real quick, I feel a whole lot better. Like I'm more calm and I'm socially able to mingle and do things that I couldn't do. And that liquid courage is a very good positive resource for me when I'm nervous. And I'm like, yes, I get it. But that's that short-term gain we talked about earlier. Because when we go home and we begin to metabolize whatever lovely spirit or wine you were drinking.
Lovely indeed.
Lovely indeed, it is, yes. But what happens is that thing metabolizes into sugar. So you're going to feel really good in the moment, and then you're going to have really high anxiety the next day. You're going to go on the roller coaster, right? Sugar spike, I kind of feel good. Next day, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling more stressed, and your blood sugar levels are doing this roller coaster ride. And long term, that can be very harmful again to our physiological state, and we know can be the start of some of those not wanted long term chronic diseases. When we're dealing with blood sugar, so diabetes, kidney issues, things of that nature. So again, we're talking long term, right? We're talking chronic use.
Under 25, like your immune system, like your metabolism, all these things are operating swiftly. As you get older, you start to feel the things that you're consuming a little bit more. So essentially, what you're telling me is that we're having more freedoms to do these things, possibly.
So I'm giving a little bit of the long answer. So we as adults, older adults, younger adults, whether you're 20 or 50, physiologically, we are the exact same as we were when we came out of the womb. And if you think about babies
Whoa.
and how they process food, how they process and eliminate things, like that food goes in, and we know a few hours later that food's coming out, right? And it is a very smooth system. So what has happened to slow down that process? The more and more you consume, and the less and less you cleanse and keep things efficient, then the more and more symptoms you're going to feel as you go. Yeah, it's a machine, and if a machine was running all day every day for decades, of course it's going to need some tune-ups. But are we really doing the tune-ups?
This is a good topic because it's such a widely known culture to just kind of go to fast food places and go grab something really quick before you leave. To just, allow your kids to have sugar and ice cream and all these things. But then when you have the behavioral issues,
It's interesting, and I take my hats off to the moms and the dads out there, and those who are trying to raise multiple children. They've got households of 2 or plus kiddos, or even 1 nowadays. It's a lot. I'm going to beg you to not make it the norm, because just as you mentioned, those preservatives, those refined foods, refined sugars, high fat foods, those are leading to some of these behavioral problems that we are seeing. But those things are absolutely connected for sure.
so how long do you think it would take for a person to start seeing changes if they start making changes?
It's so amazing, this human body of ours, because it is resilient, and that thing will respond. Okay. So I have seen individuals, do a gradual shift over a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, really start to cut back on the refined stuff, the stuff that we want less of. They increase the fruits, the veggies, the clean meats and clean proteins, and they may even add a little bit of supplemental support. And we can see decreased symptoms and improvement in things in that amount of time. I've seen people come back and say 2 or 3 weeks later, oh my gosh, I don't have joint pain. I'm sleeping better. I'm eliminating and going to the bathroom more smoothly with more ease. It doesn't take our body long. If you give it the right fuel, it's going to thank you and respond accordingly. So the last thing in regards to feelings and moods is if you're feeling slow, depressed, and sluggish, and you're not feeling like you're motivated to get moving, what you want to eat more of, dark chocolates. And I put my little side eye on y'all, because some of y'all gonna grab your Hershey's and your Nestle's and your milk chocolates, and that is not going to do you well, because that is going to be high in the sugar. So dark chocolates, again, everything in moderation. Black coffee can be used sometimes, and again, that's black coffee. That's not the mocha frappa extra pump 2 whip caramel drizzle. That's all sugar, right? So we want to do really good quality black coffee. Fermented foods, so kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, things that have a bit of fermented in there. Again, what's happening there is you're getting really good probiotics and prebiotics. You know those. Yep. Somebody's heard that before. Very good.
I like
And
what's it
yeah,
called? what's it called? Jesus Christ. Um, Kombucha. That's it.
Kombucha is another great example of fermented foods, absolutely, or drink is specifically for that. And it really helps with the aiding digestion and keeping your gut health at its best. And what a lot of people don't know is our production of serotonin is 70% based on our gut health. Has nothing to do with your brain. Serotonin, we know, it's a happy hormone, one of our happy hormones, right? So if your gut health is off, if you're not eliminating, if you're having a lot of stomach problems, if you're a lot bloated a lot, I would say let's add a pre or probiotic or eat some of those fermented foods more often in your diet. Your elimination is going to be better. Your gut health is going to get better. And usually you have a lift in mood as well. Another piece that's really, really important, it's not what you eat, but also how you eat. And we don't think a lot about that. Grab the tray, we sit in front of the television, we're eating and we're watching our favorite, Netflix series, right? Or maybe we've ran through the drive-through and we're eating in the car from A to B. I'm going to challenge you to make one meal a mindful, meaningful meal a day.
Wow. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me before you tell us anything else. I need to understand what it means to have something mindful and meaningful in a meal.
Yeah, yeah.